Let's get the obvious ones out of the way. Kenta invented the GTS, Johnny Ace invented the cutter, figure 4 leg lock, Buddy Rogers, and the powerbomb was Luther's creation. If you thought that Triple H came up with the pedigree, or that the Undertaker invented the tombstone piledriver, or even that the jackhammer was created by Goldberg, please raise your hand now. Yeah, you're wrong. I'm not gonna sound like a nerd and talk about how I know wrestling more than you, because for the longest time, I thought that knowing that Johnny Ace innovated the RKO made me feel smart, like oh my god, what a mark I am. Anyways, since I recently discovered the true innovators of several famous wrestling moves, I thought it would be a great idea to share my newfound information with you and make a top 10 list ranking the ones that I'm quite positive will surprise you. But if you somehow already knew all of them, well, good for you. Enough with the BS, I'm MH and this is the top 10 wrestlers you didn't know innovated famous wrestling moves. Now without further ado, let's rank them. Number 10, the super kick, Chris Adams. Yeah, Shawn Michaels did not invent the super kick. He might be the one who popularized the move during the 90s and had a sexier name in the switchy music, but the late legendary English wrestler Chris Adams is the one behind the most frequently used move in all pro wrestling today. So gentleman Chris Adams actually first used the enziguri as his super kick before touring Japan in the early 1980s and brought the real maneuver to the United States. And he was also the first wrestler to utilize a super kick from the top turnbuckle. Number 9, the frog splash, La Fiera. The frog splash is another move that has been done to death in today's pro wrestling. Lots of people give credit to Eddie Guerrero as the first wrestler to use the move, but that's completely wrong, and it's not even Rob Van Dam with his beautiful smooth 5-star frog splash. And surprisingly, it's not even Art Barr, who I for the longest time genuinely thought that he created it, but that turned out to be incorrect too. However, the true innovator of the frog splash is a second generation Mexican luchador named Arturo Casco Hernandez, who goes by the ring name La Fiera. He didn't use the move quite often and it's rare to find clips of him performing it. The one that I came across with was during a match against Sega Master 2nd in 1984, where he did a poor version of the frog splash that wasn't enough to give him the victory, but nonetheless he was the first to do it. Number 8, the moonsault, Mando Guerrero. Mando Guerrero might be the least well-known son of the legendary Corey Guerrero, but he sure made his incredible mark on the wrestling industry by creating the most popular high-risk maneuver. Mando created the moonsault in Mexico in the 70s, but it was his big brother Chavo who introduced it to a wider audience in the United States. However, it was the Great Muta who really popularized the move in the 80s, and while many high flyers have perfected it ever since and had better looking moonsault than Mando, he deserves the full credit for coming up with such a quintessential maneuver. Number 7, the jackhammer Jaguar Yakota. Goldberg did not invent the jackhammer. It doesn't even sound believable. Like I can't even see him invent any wrestling move, let alone a creative move such as the jackhammer. Even if I didn't previously know who was the creator of the move, I was 100% sure it wasn't Bell. It was Japanese legend Jaguar Yakota, who was not only widely considered as one of the greatest female wrestlers of all time. During her heyday in the early 1980s, she was considered one of the best wrestlers in the world irrespective of gender. You know all those big AGW stars you see talked about? Manami Toyota, Aja Kong? Yeah, Yakota trained them. You should watch some of her matches, she's legit. Japanese wrestling, and especially AGW, the promotion where Yakota spent more of her wrestling career, invented most of the wrestling move you know, especially the creative and devastating looking kinds. It's quite fascinating how the majority were created by female wrestlers. Yakota first started using the move in the early 80s. The suplex power slam wasn't even the most impressive move in her arsenal. In her time, every move she did could be a finisher. Number 6, the sharpshooter, Ricky Shoso. Although the excellence of execution Bret Hart made it popular and had without a doubt the best looking sharpshooter ever, it was former IWGP Heavyweight Champion and former promoter Ricky Shoso who actually invented the submission move in the 70s, and it was then named the Sasori Katami, Scorpion Lock in English. The move was pretty popular in Japan, and was quite the innovative submission move in that era. Of course, Sting and Ronnie Garvin were the first wrestlers to prolifically use the hold in North America, during which time it was called the Scorpion Deathlock, deriving from the original Japanese name. But Bret really took another level of popularity. Number 5, the 450 Splash, Scott Steiner. Yep, the generic freak was the one who came up with this spectacular move. It's hard to believe, but Scott Steiner used to be very athletic and agile early in his career. But then lots of injuries and lots of doses of roids happened. But yeah, he was at one point one of the best wrestlers in the business. Not only did he invent the Frankensteiner, another spectacular athletic move with the coolest fucking name, he came up with the 450 Splash, a move that later used by guys like Rey Mysterio, Paul London, Justin Gabriel, Pac, Ali. You can see the pattern here. It's hard to believe that a guy in his size not only used it to win his matches, but he invented it. and that's fucking unbelievable. While Steiner did not use the move regularly as it was obviously hard to perform because of his size, it was Too Cold Scorpio who made the move famous and whom a lot of people stole the move from. Number 4. The pedigree. I'm not gonna say who created the move, I'll let you guys guess it. Just take your time, no cheating, and I guarantee you, your guess is wrong and you're far off. It's Triple H, you fool. Who did you think invented this move? Nah, I'm messing with you guys, it's not Triple H. It's the one and only, the 8th wonder of the world, Andre the Giant. I shit you not, he's the one, and this is the proof. This blew my mind when I first saw it, and I had to make sure that he was actually the innovator of the move. And sure enough, he was. Heck, even Triple H did mention this in an interview. This is another case where it's hard to believe that Andre would come up with such a move, but this was back when his knees were fine and he weighted less. And although he wasn't the innovator of the tombstone piledriver, he did it a couple times in the 70s and he was one of the first to use it. And seeing him doing it, it is pretty impressive. Speaking of the tombstone piledriver, number 3, the tombstone piledriver, Jackie Polo. So as I already spoiled it, it's not Andre, and sure as shit is not Taker neither. The move is actually first used back in the early days of wrestling in the 60s by English wrestler Jackie Polo. The first documented use of the reverse piledriver tombstone piledriver for you casuals was against Mick McManus, or Mick Manus, I hope I didn't butcher the name, on Cup Final Day in 1962. He rarely used it though, but he undoubtedly is the true innovator of the move. But the move didn't become a hit until Billy Robinson, another British wrestler, began using the move in the 70s, to the point where people mistakenly credited him for inventing the move. But yet he's the one who called it the tombstone piledriver first, which is very odd, doesn't seem right. Dynamite Kid, another British, later used the move on several occasions, then Andre the Giant, and then a bunch of Japanese wrestlers, and then Taker joined the club in the early 90s, and made it one of the most popular finishing moves of all of wrestling, to the point that it's hard to associate anyone else with the move. Number 2. The DDT, Black Gordman. Your life was a lie. You believe that Jake the Snake Robert came up with the move and his BS story about creating the move by accident, and that it was a botch at first and he liked it so much it became his finishing move. I hate to break it to you, but he did not in fact invent the DDT. I was devastated too when I learned that fact. I feel like I was lied to. Black Gordman is the one who actually came up with the move and did it pretty well too. He was a big name in Mexico in the 70s, so I highly doubt that Jake the Snake Robert hadn't heard of him, or even the fact that he uses the move every time he wrestles. He began doing the Diamond Twist, also famously known as the DDT, in the 70s, and yes, Jake Roberts made it a much bigger deal and it was a legitimate finisher. Obviously, it did not age well. It's impossible to take it seriously as a finisher or match nowadays. And number 1, the chokeslam, Abraham Lincoln. Honest to God, I read before I began writing this video script that Paul Heyman was the man behind the creation of the chokeslam. He came up with it in the early 90s and told former ECW's wrestler 911 to start using this new move as his finisher. That alone is very fascinating. I've always knew that 911 did the move first, but it was just recently that I found out that the chokeslam is Paul Heyman's brainchild. This fact deserves a place on the list, maybe at 6 or 5 at best. But when I read online that Abraham Lincoln, America's 16th president, technically created the chokeslam, it blew my fucking mind away. And it had to be at number 1, there's no competition. Obviously though, there is no clip to Lincoln doing the chokeslam, but you have to trust my sources. Which is Wikipedia, of course. I don't care if it's true or not, I wanna believe it, because it's so cool and this picture is the fucking best. And it just sounds better overall. So there you have it, we reached the end of the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe and comment as usual. It's been MH, thank you for watching and I'll see you soon. Tschüss.